Now, the new urbanists have been critiqued for being too utopian. In many ways, we'll look at a couple of examples where their urban designs have created some very positive, but also maybe some more challenging aspects of a new urbanist process. But as David Harvey has mentioned in Spaces of Hope, he said that really utopia is a key aspect for human development, that without utopia, if humans don't strive for a utopia, they'll never really continue, that progress really relies on utopia. And it's a failure of gaining that utopian landscape is what drives on the next generation. So you need utopias, you need to dream in order to progress in social terms. So we're going to look at two examples of New Urbanist School. The first one is in Seaside. It's become a very well-known city, a well-known urban development, largely because it was a film setting for the Truman Show, which became a Hollywood film, which in many ways created an ideal living urban environment. And the producers of the film visited Seaside and thought they were walking into a film set, the film set they'd been trying to design previously. Now, Seaside was one of the first developments of the New Urbanist School, and it was designed along the principles outlined in terms of small-scale neighbourhood development. It was first really discussed or mooted in the late 70s, and in the 1980s it was fully developed, in process to be developed, in creating certain forms of livability, walkability in Florida. The idea was to create a small town neighbourhood with a projected population around 2,000 people. This was deemed to be similar to the townships in the USA, in the United States in the 1920s and 30s. It was again to have a mixed form of land use, to create that mixed social economic neighbourhood that arguably would make a city more pleasant to live in. And as you can see, they are utopian in vision. They are referring to maybe a notion of North American living, very clean streets, white picket fences, and we'll discuss some of the aspects of that form of new urbanism that have been critiqued in the following slide. Celebration in Florida, for those of you who know Disneyland, was developed in the early 90s as part of an urban generation project inspired again by new urbanism. As again, it follows the same principles of walkability, high quality urban design, mixed neighborhoods, and you can see it presents an image, particularly of an image of North American townscape that many would find attractive. But as you'll notice, although there are different urban design, different building designs, there are also a variety of residents, arguably in its planning, but you'll notice there's quite a strong level of uniformity. And in some ways, the new urbanism have been critiqued because they are looking at urban design, they're looking at traditional ideas, almost some have argued quaint ideas of urban design, but there's a certain conformity there. So you'll notice that all the picket fences are white, and you'll notice there's a level of conformity within difference. And one of the aspects of living in this area is you also sign up to if you will, a social code, a form of conduct. So if you wanted to paint your fence a different colour or your door a different colour, then that again probably would not be seen to be fitting, and you have to conform to the certain laws of the neighbourhood. So although many aspects of new urbanist design do fit into the wider aspects of creating a sustainable city, a sustainable city, in many cases that comes with forms of control. And so again, that has been seen as problematic. Also, the notion of having a city in which a variety of social groups may live becomes problematic when you're working within a market economy. And many of these desirable residents are indeed desired, and many of the houses now are really only affordable as vacation homes for the relatively wealthy. So in some ways, the principle in design has worked very well, but in terms of reality, the market economy has created some would argue, a gentrified community that really doesn't reflect some of the social mixing that new urbanist or sustainable forms of development would encourage. And this has been reflected in some of the critiques of new urbanist development. Particularly Scully has argued that one cannot help but hope that the lessons of Seaside and of other new towns now taking shape can be applied to the problem of housing for the poor. That is where community is most needed and where it has been most destroyed. So again, we're going back to the issues of the social matrix of a city. That sustainable development isn't purely looking at urban design, it's not focusing on the economic or environmental aspects alone, it's the social aspect which many would argue is the most important form of creating a livable city and a sustainable city.